Let us welcome the third speaker. The third speaker is Ms. Mai Hasegawa. Her speech title is Living Together in Japan. Living Together in Japan. So Ms. Hasegawa, please come up to the stage.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies and distinguished judges. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, everyone. My name is Mai Hasegawa. I'm from Okayama, and I live in Tokyo now. I like singing, and I'm good at taking selfies. Nice to meet you today. Oops, I forgot to tell you one more thing. Actually, I'm Korean. 오늘은 잡담갑니다. This is how I introduce myself to others. But when I say I'm Korean living in Japan, so-called Zainichi Korean, some people suddenly change their attitude, or even they dislike me by saying, "Oh, so you are Korean, not Japanese." How did you feel when I said, I'm Korean? Maybe you felt some distance between me. So today, I would like everyone to regard Chinese Koreans as people living together in Japan without having any prejudice. Someday, I hope both Japanese and Chinese Koreans can live in harmony by respecting each other's ideas, cultures, and existence. You may think, I don't have any prejudice towards Koreans, but we all should face this problem as people living together in Japan. In Tokyo and Osaka, about 1 out of 100 people is Zainichi Korean. This means more than 1 of your friends can be Chinese Koreans. They live in Japan with you, but at the same time, they are suffering from prejudice by what they were born with. These days, we often see hate speech, not only on the street, but also on the internet. Here's a prejudice that I experienced. Last year, I participated in a lecture held by Mindan, a Korean resident union in Japan. Chinese Koreans university students gathered, and we studied about Chinese history. However, a month later, I found a website which had hateful comments towards Korean people in the lecture that said, "Zainichi, you don't have any future. Go back to Korea." Studying, being interested in culture, and enjoying chatting with friends, just like what other university students in Japan do. All the things that I do in my daily life were denied by those hateful comments. I was born and grew up in Japan. The place where I go back to is in Japan, not in Korea. But being Korean is a huge part of my identity that I can't lose. When I watch figure skating on TV, I can't choose which player to support, Korean or Japanese. Also, to celebrate the coming of age, I wore both Japanese furisode and Korean chumachogori. Both cultures have made what I am today. I'm proud of being Korean. However, every time I see hateful comments, I feel the dilemma of being Japanese and Korean. Who am I? I often ask myself, and I sometimes feel I'm neither Korean nor Japanese, although I have both identities myself. Why? Why does a prejudice happen towards Chinese Koreans? The main reason is that many Japanese people are easily influenced by rumors, such as hateful comments, without knowing well about us. Also, people tend to see history only through one perception. Some people don't even understand why Chinese Koreans live in Japan. They misunderstand us as outsiders who shouldn't be in Japan. So lack of knowledge and lack of interaction with Chinese Koreans have made the wall named prejudice. Imagine if you were excluded as an outsider where you have spent your entire life. You must be sad and wonder, why? However, this is happening to us Chinese Koreans. Of course, all of us have different backgrounds, but this difference shouldn't be used to judge people. I don't want you to regard us as outsiders, but as friends who live together in Japan. Now, why don't you step forward and end prejudice by starting a direct communication? If you meet Chinese Koreans, please have courage to forget prejudice, and please do not hesitate to communicate with them. You can learn more about Chinese Koreans. Through direct communication, we can gradually understand each other and reduce prejudice that was a wall between us. One day, some of my friends asked me, "You speak Japanese fluently and your name is Japanese. Do you have a Korean name?" Then I explained my background, and they noticed something new about Chinese Koreans and said, "Oh, I didn't know about the history. Thank you, Mai." When I talk like this with my friends, I feel we took a step forward for living together in Japan. Also, to create a direct communication, Chinese Koreans should be brave enough to say, "I'm Korean living in Japan." I know it's difficult, but that is why this issue still exists. So taking a step forward from both sides are required. And therefore, I'm making this speech. We all have the right to live happily together, and we have the responsibility to realize a society. So today, as a first step, why don't we have some conversation together at the reception? Now, if I say, "I'm Korean living in Japan," I hope you won't change your attitude to me. And I strongly hope that all Chinese Koreans can proudly say, "I'm Korean living in Japan," in near future. I'm Korean living in Japan. I hope this phrase will be the trigger to make our society a better place for more diverse people to live together. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Hasegawa. Now, we have a question and answer session. Ms. Fukushima, please.
Thank you, Hasegawa-san, for your
Thank
speech.
you.
Now, my question is, should hate speech be criminalized? I heard that in Germany, denying Holocaust is against the law, but in the United States, you can say anything on radio, TV, and you won't get penalized. What do you think Japan should do about hate speech?
About the law to regulate hate speech, I think it is meaningless to make a law about hate speech because no laws can control people's heart. So even if we regulate hate speech, I don't think it will vanish. So I don't think I don't think we should make a law to regulate hate speech.
Okay. Now, what do you plan to do in Japan to do away with discrimination or prejudice?
So what I
Yeah, what kind of activities do you want to do to abolish prejudice in Japan?
Okay, I do speech activities to tell many people that Chinese Koreans are people who live together, and I do activities to tell people about Chinese Koreans.
Okay. And how do you want to promote diversity in Japan?
To promote diversity, I think that is not what I can do to make people to realize diversity. So I think schools should do more education about diversity, like interact with people who go to international schools or going abroad in summer break or like that. So I think both for my I make a speech, but I think schools should do activities like that.
Okay, thank you very much, Hasegawa-san.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fukushima and Ms. Hasegawa. Please go back to your seat.